Welcome to Tuesday story time, I guess, for lack of a better title. Tuesday Tennyson. I believe that's what we're going to read from today. I don't know. Why not? I could pick up some shorter fairy tales, but I opened today to just a random page in this old volume of Tennyson, and there's a few short verses, and then it goes into the idylls of King Arthur. So I might head into that next and do that occasionally, mixed in with some short stories. You know, see where it goes. I'm pretty low energy right now, just to be real honest. But if I'm going to read, I'm going to share it. I'm also reading another book on the side. Very good, but you know, got to change it up. So, we're going to begin with the victim. A plague upon the people fell, a famine after laid them low. Then Thorpe and Byre arose in fire, for on them brake the sudden foe. So thick they died, the people cried, the gods are moved against the land. The priest in horror about his altar to Thor and Odin lifted a hand. Help us from famine and plague and strife. What would you have of us, human life? Were it our nearest, were it our dearest, answer, oh answer, we give you his life. But still the foeman spoiled and burned, and cattle died, and deer in wood, and bird in air, and fishes turned, and whitened all the rolling flood. And dead men lay all over the way, over down in a furrow scathed with flame. And ever and aye the priesthood moaned, till at last it seemed that an answer came. The king is happy in child and wife. Take you his dearest, give us a life. The priest went out by heath and hill. The king was hunting in the wild. They found the mother sitting still. She cast her arms about the child. The child was only 8 summers old, his beauty still with his years increased. His face was ruddy, his hair was gold. He seemed a victim due to the priest. The priest beheld him and cried with joy, "The gods have answered, we give them the boy." The king returned from out the wild. He bore but little game in hand. The mother said, "They have taken the child to spill his blood and heal the land. The land is sick, the people diseased, and blight and famine on all the lay. The holy gods, they must be appeased. So I pray you tell the truth to me. They have taken our son. They will take his life. Is he your dearest, or I the wife?" The king bent low, with hand on brow. He stayed his arms upon his knee. "O wife, what use to answer now? For now the priest has judged for me." The king was shaken with holy fear. "The gods," he said, "would have chosen well. Yet both are near, and both are dear. And which the dearest I cannot tell." But the priest was happy, his victim won. We have his dearest, his only son. The rites prepared, the victim bared, the knife uprising toward the blow. To the altar stone she sprang alone. "Me, not my darling, no." He caught her away with a sudden cry. Suddenly from him broke his wife, and shrieking, "I am his dearest, I am his dearest," rushed on the knife. And the priest was happy. "O Father Odin, we give you a life. Which was his nearest? Who was his dearest? The gods have answered. We give you the wife." Wages. Hi, Lev. Glory of warrior, glory of orator, glory of song, paid with a voice flying by to be lost on an endless sea. Glory of virtue, to fight, to struggle, to right the wrong. Nay, but she aimed not at glory, no lover of glory she. Give her the glory of going on, and still to be. The wages of sin is death, if the wages of virtue be dust. Would she have heart to endure for the life of the worm and the fly? She desires no isles of the blessed, no quiet seats of the just. to rest in a golden grove or to bask in a summer sky. Give her the wages of going on and not to die. The higher pantheism. The sun, the moon, the stars, the seas, the hills, and the plains, are not these, O soul, the vision of him who reigns? Is not the vision he, though he be not that which he seems? Dreams are true while they last, and do not live, and do we not live in dreams? Earth, these solid stars, this weight of body and limb, are they not sign and symbol of thy division from him? Dark is the world to thee, thyself art reason why. For is he not all but thou, that hast power to feel, I am I? Glory about thee, without thee, and thou fulfillest thy doom, making him broken gleams and a stifled splendor and gloom. Speak to him thou, for he hears, and spirit with spirit can meet. Closer is he than breathing, and nearer than hands and feet. God is law, say the wise, O soul, and let us rejoice. For if he thunder by law, the thunder is yet his voice. Law is God, say some. No God at all, says the fool. For all we have power to see in a straight staff bent in a pool. And the ear of man cannot hear, and the eye of man cannot see. But if we but if we could see and hear this vision, were it not he. That one's very nice. Sorry, my chair is terrible. Flower in the crannied wall, I pluck you out of the crannies. Hold you here, root and all, in my hand, little flower. But if I could understand what you are, root and all in all, I should know what God and man is. Okay. Let's see. The next in order is Lucretius. So why don't we read that? Lucilla, wedded to Lucretius, found her master cold, for when the morning flush of passion and the first embrace had died between them, though he loved her none the less, yet often when the women heard his foot return from pacings in the field and ran to greet him with a kiss, the master took small notice or austerely, for his mind half buried in some weightier argument or fancy born perhaps upon the rise and long roll of the hexameter, he passed to turn and ponder those 300 scrolls left by the teachers whom he held divine. She brooked it not, but wrathful, petulant, dreaming some rival, sought and found a witch, who brewed the philter which had power, they said, to lead an errant passion home again, and this at times she mingled with his drink. And this destroyed him, for the wicked broth confused the chemic labor of the blood, and tickling the brute brain within the man's made havoc among those tender cells, and checked his power to shape. He loathed himself, and once, after a tempest woke upon a morn that mocked him with returning calm, and cried, Storm in the night, for thrice I heard the rain rushing, and once the flash of a thunderbolt, methought I never saw so fierce a fork, struck out the streaming mountainside and showed a riotous confluence of watercourses, blanching and billowing in a hollow of it, where all but yester-eve was dusty dry. Storm, and what dreams, ye holy gods, what dreams? For thrice I wakened after dreams. Perchance we do not recollect the dreams that come, just ere the waking, terrible, for it seemed a void was made in nature, all her bonds cracked, and I saw the flaming Atmos streams and torrents of her myriad universe, ruining along the illimitable inane, flying on to clash together again and make another and another frame of things forever. That was mine, my dream. I knew it. Hi. Of and belonging to me as the dog with inward yelp and restless forefoot plies his function of the woodland. But the next, I thought that all the blood by Scylla shed came driving rain-like down again on earth, And where it dashed the reddening meadow sprang no dragon warriors from Cadmean teeth, for these I thought my dream would show to me, but girls, heterani, curious in their art, hired animalisms, vile as those that made the mulberry-faced dictator's orgies worse than aught they fable of the quiet gods. And hands they mixed and yelled, and round me drove in nearing circles, till I yelled again, half suffocated, and saw, was it the first beam of my latest day? Then, from utter gloom stood out the breasts of Helen, and hoveringly a sword, now over and now under, now direct, pointed itself to pierce, but sank down ashamed. At all that beauty, and as I stared at the fire that left a roofless Ilion, shot out of them and scorched me that I woke. Is this thy vengeance, holy Venus, thine, because I would not one of thine own doves? Not even a rose were offered to thee, thine, forgetful how my rich Prosimian makes thy glory fly along the Italian field in lays that will outlast thy deity. Deity? Nay, thy worshippers, my tongue trips or I speak profanely. Which of these angers thee most, or angers thee at all? Not if thou beest of those who, far aloof from envy, hate and pity and spite and scorn, live the great life which all our greatest fain would follow, centered in eternal calm. Nay, if thou canst, O goddess, like ourselves, touch and be touched, then would I cry to thee to kiss thy mavers, roll thy tender arms round him, and keep him from the lust of blood that makes a steaming slaughterhouse of Rome. But I meant not thee, I meant not her, whom all the pines of Ida shook to see slide from that quiet heaven of hers, and tempt the Trojan, while his neat herds were abroad. Nor her that over her wounded hunter wept, her deity false in human amorous tears, nor whom her beardless apple abitur decided fairest. Rather, O ye gods, poet-like, as the great Sicilian called Calliope to grace his golden verse, I, and this Cypris also, did I take, that popular name of thine to shadow forth the all-generating powers and genial heat of nature, when she strikes through the thick blood of cattle and light is large, and lambs are glad, nosing the mother's udder, and the bird makes his heart voice amid the blaze of flowers, which things appear the work of mighty gods. The gods, and if I go, my work is left unfinished. If I go, the gods who haunt the lucid interspace of world and world, where never creeps a cloud or moves a wind, nor ever falls the least white star of snow, nor ever lowest roll of thunder moans, nor sound of human sorrow mounts to mar their sacred everlasting calm, and such, not all so fine, nor so divine a calm, not such, nor all unlike it, man may gain, letting his own life go. The gods. All be atoms, how then should the gods, being atomic, not be dissoluble, not follow the great law? My master held that gods there are, for all men so believe. I pressed my footsteps into his, and meant surely to lead my Memmius in a train of flowery clauses onward to the proof that gods there are, and deathless. I meant. I have forgotten what I meant. My mind stumbles, and all my faculties are lamed. Look where another of our gods, the sun, Apollo, Delius, or of older use, all-seeing Hyperion, what you will, has mounted yonder, since he never sware, except his wrath were wreaked upon wretched man, that he would only shine among the dead hereafter. Tales, for never yet on earth could dead flesh creep, or bits of roasting ox moan round the spit, nor knows he what he sees. King of the East, although he seem and girt with song and flame and fragrance, slowly lifts his golden feet on those empurpled stairs that climb into the windy halls of heaven. And here he glances on an eye new born, and gets for greeting but a wail of pain, and here he stays upon a freezing orb that fain would gaze upon him to the last, and here upon a yellow eyelid fallen and closed by those who mourn a friend in vain, not thankful that his troubles are no more. And me, although his fire is on my face, blinding he sees not, nor at all can tell whether I mean this day to end myself, or lend an ear to Plato where he says, that man, like soldiers, may not quit the post allotted by the gods, but he that holds the gods are careless, wherefore need he care greatly for them, nor rather plunge at once, being troubled, wholly out of and sink. Past earthquake, eye and gout and stone that break body toward death, and palsy, death in life, and wretched age, and worst, disease of all, these prodigies of myriad nakedness and twisted shapes of lust, unspeakable, abominable, strangers at my hearth, not welcome, harpies miring every dish, the phantom husks of something foully done, and fleeting through the boundless universe and blasting the long quiet of my breast with animal heat and dire insanity. How should the mind, except it loved them, clasp these idols to herself? Or do they fly, now thinner and now thicker, like the flakes in a fall of snow, and so press in, perforce, of multitude, as crowds that in an hour of civic tumult jam the doors and bear the keepers down, and throng, their rags and they, the basest, far into that council hall, where sit the best and stateliest of the land? Can I not fling this horror off me again, seeing with how great ease nature can smile, balmier and nobler from her bath of storm, at random ravage, and how easily the mountain there has cast his cloudy slew, I don't know that word, now towering over him in serenest air, a mountain over a mountain, aye and within, all hollow as the hopes and fears of men. But who was he that in the garden snared Picus and Faunus, rustic gods, a tale to laugh at, more to laugh at in myself? For look, what is it there? You arbutus totters, a noiseless riot underneath strikes through the wood, sets all the tops quivering. The mountain quickens into nymph and faun, and here an Oread, how the sun delights to glance and shift about her slippery sides, and rosy knees and supple roundedness and budded bosom peaks, who this way runs, before the rest a satyr see, follows, but him I proved impossible. Twi-natured is no nature, yet he draws nearer and nearer, and I scan him now, beastlier than any phantom of his kind that ever butted his rough brother brute for lust or lusty blood or provender. I hate, abhor, spit, sicken at him, and she loathes him as well, such a precipitate heel, fledged, as it were, with Mercury's ankle wing, whirls her to me, but will she fling herself shameless upon me? Catch her goat foot? Nay, hide them, million myriad wilderness, and cavern shadowing laurels hide. Do I wish what? That the bush were leafless, or to whelm all of them in one massacre. O ye gods, I know you careless, yet behold, to you, from childly want and ancient use I call. I thought I lived securely as yourselves, no lewdness, narrowing envy, monkey spite, no madness of ambition, avarice, none. No larger feast than under plane or pine with neighbors laid along the grass to take, only such cups as left us friendly warm, affirming each his own philosophy, nothing to mar the sober majesties of settled, sweet, Epicurean life. But now it seems some unseen monster lays his vast and filthy hands upon my will, wrenching it backward into his, and spoils my bliss in being. And it was not great, for save when shutting reasons up in rhythm, or Heliconian honey in living words, to make a truth less harsh, I often grew so tired of much within our little life, or of so little in our life. Poor little life that toddles half an hour, crowned with a flower or two, and there an end. And since the nobler pleasure seems to fade. Why should I, beast like as I find myself, not man like end myself? Our privilege. What beast has heart to do it? And what man, what Roman would be drugged in triumph thus? Not I, not he who bears one name with her, whose death blow struck the dateless doom of kings, when brooking not the Tarquin in her veins, she made her blood in sight of Collatine and all his peers, flushing the guiltless air, spout from the maiden fountain in her heart. And from it sprang the commonwealth with which breaks as I am breaking now. And therefore now let her, that is the womb and tomb of all, great nature take, and forcing far apart these blind beginnings that have made me man, dash them anew together at her will through all her cycles into man once more, or beast, or bird, or fish, or opulent flower, but till this cosmic order everywhere, shattered into one earthquake in one day, cracks all to pieces, and that hour perhaps is not so far when momentary man shall seem no more a something to himself, but he, his hopes and hates, his homes and fanes, and even his bones long laid within the grave, the very sides of the grave itself shall pass, vanishing atom and void, into the unseen forever. Till that hour, my golden work, in which I told a truth that stays the rolling Ixionian wheel, and numbs the Fury's ringlet snake, and plucks the mortal soul from out immortal hell, shall stand. I, surely, then it fails at last, and perishes as I must. For, O thou, passionless bride, divine tranquillity, yearned after by the wisest of the wise, who fail to find thee, being as thou art, without one pleasure and without one pain. Howbeit I know thou surely must be mine, or soon or late, yet out of season. Thus I woo thee roughly, for thou carest not how roughly men may woo thee, so they win. Thus the soul flies out and dies in the air. With that he drove the knife into his side. She heard him raging, heard him fall, ran in, beat breast, tore hair, cried out upon herself, as having failed in duty to him, shrieked that she but meant to win him back, fell on him, clasped, kissed him, wailed. He answered, care not thou, thy duty, what is duty? Fare thee well. It's a terrible story. Terrible. So I have Love Kung Fu Shaolin, Zaralath Immortal, and Skull Asylum. It is great to see you all today. I'm just doing random readings because I haven't done any in about a week. I've just been like wiped out. I don't know what's going on. Well, I kind of do, energy vampires, but what you gonna do? I don't know what to do. Lock it up. So I could go into the Idols of the King, the coming of Arthur, which would be good, but I have never read this as Tennyson wrote it, so I worry about my rhythm and pronunciation, but I'll give it a go if anybody's interested in getting into this story. And, I think it'd be okay. What time is it? 12:24. Since he held them. Yeah, I'm going to give it a try. Idols of the King. These to his memory, since he held them dear, perchance as finding there unconsciously some image of himself, I dedicate, I consecrate with tears these idols. Hi, little wing. Nice to see you. And indeed, he seems to me scarce other than my own ideal knight, who reverenced his conscience as his king, whose glory was redressing human wrong, who spake no slander, no, nor listened to it, who loved one only, and who clave to her, over all whose realms to their last isle, commingled with the gloom of imminent war. The shadows of his loss drew like eclipse, darkening the world. We have lost him. He is gone. We know him now. All narrow jealousies are silent, and we see him as he moved, how modest, kindly, all accomplished, wise, with what sublime repression of himself, and in what limits, and how tenderly, not swaying to this faction or that, not making his high place the lawless perch of winged ambitions, nor a vantage ground for pleasure, but through all this tract of years, wearing the white flower of a blameless life, before 1,000 peering littlenesses, in that fierce light which beats upon a throne, and blackens every blot. For where is he who dares foreshadow for an only son a lovelier life, a more unstained than his? Or how should England, dreaming of his sons, hope more for these than some inheritance of such a life, a heart, a mind as thine, thou noble father of her kings to be? Laborious for her people and her poor, voice in the rich dawn of an ampler day, far-sighted summoner of war and waste to fruitful strifes and rivalries of peace. Sweet nature gilded by the gracious gleam of letters, dear to science, dear to art, dear to thy land and ours, a prince indeed. Beyond all titles and a household name, hereafter, through all times, Albert the Good. Break not, O woman's heart, but still endure. Break not, for thou art royal, but endure. Remembering all the beauty of that star which shone so close beside thee, that ye made one light together, but has passed and leaves the crown a lonely splendor. May all love, his love, unseen but felt, overshadow thee. The love of all thy sons encompass thee. The love of all thy daughters cherish thee. The love of all thy people comfort thee, till God's love set thee at his side again. The Coming of Arthur. Leodegrane, the king of Camelard, had one fair daughter and none other child, and she was fairest of all flesh on earth, Guinevere, and in her his one delight. For many a petty king ere Arthur came, ruled in this isle, and ever waging war each upon the other, wasted all the land. And still from time to time the heathen host swarmed overseas and harried what was left. And so there grew great tracts of wilderness, wherein the beast was ever more and more, but man was less and less till Arthur came. For first Aurelius lived and fought and died, and after him King Uther fought and died, but either failed to make the kingdom one. And after these King Arthur for a space, and through the puissance of his round, drew all their petty princedoms under him, their king and head, and made a realm and reigned. And thus the land of Camelard. They're calling it Camelard in this reading, but that is like bugging me. So we're gonna say Camelot because that's better for me. I keep thinking of lard, and that's not gonna be okay. Um, and thus the land of Camelot was waste, thick with wet woods, and many a beast therein, and none or few to scare or chase the beast, so that wild dog and wolf and boar and bear came night and day and rooted in the fields, and wallowed in the gardens of the king. And ever and anon the wolf would steal the children and devour, but now and then her own brood, lost or dead, left her fierce teat to human sucklings, and the children, housed in her foul den, there at their meat would growl and mock their foster mother on 4 feet, till straightened they grew up to wolf-like men. Worse than wolves, and King Leodogran groaned for the Roman legions here again, and Caesar's eagle. Then his brother king, Rience, assailed him. Last a heathen horde, reddening the sun with smoke and earth and blood, and on the spike that split the mother's heart, splitting the child, brake on him till amazed, he knew not whither he should turn for aid. But, for he heard of Arthur newly crowned, though not without an uproar made by those who cried, "He is not Uther's son, the king." The king sent to him, saying, "Arise and help us thou, for here between the man and beast we die." And Arthur yet had done no deed of arms, but heard the call and came, and Guinevere stood by the castle's walls to watch him pass. But since he neither wore on helm or shield the golden symbol of his kinglyhood, but rode a simple knight among his knights, and many of these in richer arms than he, she saw him not, or marked him not if she saw, one among many, though his face was bare. But Arthur, looking downward as he passed, felt the light of her eyes into his life smite on the sudden, yet rode on and pitched his tents beside the forest. And he drove the heathen, and he slew the beast, and felled the forest, and let in the sun, and made broad pathways for the hunter and the knight, and so returned. For while he lingered there, a doubt that ever smoldered in the hearts of those great lords and barons of his realm flashed forth into war, for most of these made head against him, crying, "Who is he that he should rule us? Who hath proven him King Uther's son? For lo, we look at him and find nor face nor bearing, limbs nor voice are like to those of Uther whom we knew. This is the son of Gorlios, not the king. This is the son of Anton, not the king." And Arthur, passing thence to battle, felt travail, and throes and agonies of the life, desiring to be joined with Guinevere, and thinking as he rode, her father said, that there between the man and beast they die. Shall I not lift her from this land of beasts up to my throne, and side by side with me? What happiness to reign a lonely king! Vexed, O ye stars that shudder over me, O earth that soundest hollow under me, vexed with waste dreams, for saving I be joined to her that this is the fairest under the heavens. I seem as nothing in the mighty world, and cannot will my will, nor work my work wholly, nor make myself in mine own realm victor and lord. But were I joined with her, then might we live together as one life, and reigning with one will in everything, have power on this dark land to lighten it, and power on this dead world to make it live. And Arthur from the field of battle sent Ulfius and Brastias and Bedivere, his new-made knights, to King Leodogran, saying, "If I win in aught have served thee well, give me thy daughter Guinevere to wife." Whom when he heard, Leodogran in heart debating, "How should I that I am king, however much he help me at my need, give my one daughter saving to a king and a king's son?" Lifted his voice and called a hoary man, his chamberlain, to whom he trusted all things, and of him required his counsel. "Knowest thou aught of Arthur's birth?" Then spake the hoary chamberlain, and said, "Sir king, there be but 2 old men that can know, and each is twice as old as I, and one is Merlin, the wise man that ever served King Uther through his magic art, and one is Merlin's master, so they call him, Blaise, who taught him magic, but the scholar ran before the master, and so far that Blaise laid magic by and sat him down and wrote all these things and whatsoever Merlin did in one great annal book, where after years will learn the secret of our Arthur's birth." To whom the King Leodogran replied, "O friend, had I been holpen half as well by this King Arthur as by thee today, then beast and man had had their share of me. But summon here before us yet once more Ulfius and Brastias and Bedivere." Then when they came before him, the king said, "I have chosen the cuckoo chased by lesser fowl, and reason in the chase, but wherefore now? Do these your lords stir up the heat of war, some calling Arthur born of Gorlias, others of Anton? Tell me, ye yourselves, hold ye this Arthur for King Uther's son?" And Ulfius and Brastias answered, "Aye." Then Bedivere, the first of all his knights, knighted by Arthur at his crowning, spake. For bold in heart and act and word was he, whenever slander breathed against the king. Sir, there be many rumors on this head, for there be those who hate him in their hearts, call him base-born, and since his ways are sweet and theirs are bestial, hold him less than man. And there be those who deem him more than man, and dream he dropped from heaven. But my belief in all this matter, so ye care to learn, sir, for ye know that in King Uther's time, the prince and warrior Gorlias, he that held Tintagel castle by the Cornish sea, was wedded with a winsome wife, Igraine. Is it Igraine? I think that's how you say that. And daughters had she borne him, one whereof, Lot's wife, the queen of Orkney, Belisant, hath ever like a loyal sister cleaved to Arthur, but a son she had not borne, and Uther cast upon her eyes of love. But she, a stainless wife to Gorlias, so loathed the bright dishonour of his love, that Gorlias and King Uther went to war. And overthrown was Gorlias and slain. Then Uther in his wrath and heat besieged Igraine with Tintagel, where her men, seeing the mighty swarm about their walls, left her and fled. And Uther entered in, and there was none to call to but himself. So compassed by the power of the king, enforced she was to wed him in her tears, and with a shameful swiftness afterwards, not many moons, King Uther died himself, moaning and wailing for an heir to rule after him, lest the realm should go to wreck. And that same night, the night of the new year, by reason of the bitterness and grief that vexed his mother, all before his time was Arthur born, and all as soon as born delivered at a secret postern gate to Merlin, to be holden far apart until his hour should come, because the lords of that fierce day were as the lords of this, wild beasts, and surely would have torn the child piecemeal among them, had they known, for each but sought to rule for his own self and hand, and many hated Uther for the sake of Gorlias. Wherefore Merlin took the child, and gave him to Sir Anton, an old knight and ancient friend of Uther. And his wife nursed the young prince, and reared him with her own. And no man knew. And ever since the lords have foughten like wild beasts among themselves, so that the realm has gone to wreck. But now, this year, when Merlin, for his hour had come, brought Arthur forth and set him in the hall, proclaiming, Here is Uther's heir, your king. 100 voices cried, Away with him, no king of ours, a son of Gorlias he, or else the child of Anton, and no king, or else base-born. Yet Merlin through his craft, and while the people clamored for a king, had Arthur crowned. But after the great lords banded, and so brake out an open war. What you laughing at, Skull Asylum? My bad pronunciation? Then while the king debated with himself if Arthur were the child of shamefulness, or born the son of Gorlias after death, or Uther's son, and born before his time, or whether there were truth in anything said by these three, there came to Camelot with Gawain and young Modred, her 2 sons, Lot's wife, the queen of Orkney, Belisant, whom as he could, not as he would, the king made feast for, saying, as they sat at meat, A doubtful throne is ice on summer seas. Ye come from Arthur's court. Think ye this king, so few his knights, however brave they be, hath body enow to beat his foemen down? O king, she cried, and I will tell thee few, but all brave, all of one mind with him. For I was near him when the savage yells of Uther's peerage died, and Arthur sat crowned on the dais, and his warriors cried, Be thou the king, and we will work thy will who love thee. Then the king, in low, deep tones and simple words of great authority, bound them by so strait vows to his own self that when they rose, knighted from kneeling, some were pale as at the pressing of a ghost, some flushed and others dazed, as one who wakes half blinded at the coming of a light. But when he spake and cheered his table round with large, divine, and comfortable words, beyond my tongue to tell thee, I beheld from eye to eye through all their order flash a momentary likeness of the king. And ere it left their faces, through the cross and those around it, and the crucified, down from the casement over Arthur, smote flame color, vert, and azure in three rays, one falling upon each of three fair queens, who stood in silence near his throne, the friends of Arthur gazing on him, tall with bright, sweet faces, who will help him at his need. And there I saw Mage Merlin, whose vast wit and 100 winters are but as the hands of loyal vassals toiling for their liege. And near him stood the Lady of the Lake, who knows a subtler magic than his own. Clothed in white samite, mystic, wonderful, she gave the king his huge cross-hilted sword, whereby to drive the heathen out. A mist of incense curled about her, and her face well nigh was hidden in the minister gloom. But there was heard among the holy hymns a voice as of the waters, for she dwells down in a deep calm. Whatsoever storms may shake the world, and when the surface rolls, hath power to walk the waters like our Lord. There likewise I beheld Excalibur before him at his crowning borne, the sword that rose from out the bosom of the lake, and Arthur rode across and took it, rich with jewels, elfin Urim on the hilt, bewildering heart and eye, the blade so bright that men are blinded by it. On one side, graven in the oldest tongue of all this world, take me, but turn the blade, and you shall see. And written in the speech ye speak yourself, cast me away. And sad was Arthur's face, taking it, but old Merlin counselled him, take thou and strike, the time to cast away is yet far off. So this great brand the king took, and by this will beat his foeman down. Thereat Leodogran rejoiced, but thought to sift his doubtings to the last, and asked, fixing full eyes on question on her face, the swallow and the swift are near akin, but thou art closer to this noble prince, being his own dear sister. And she said, daughter of Gorlias and Igraine am I. And therefore Arthur's sister? Asked the king. She answered, these be secret things, and signed to those two sons to pass and let them be. And Gawain went, and breaking into song sprang out, and followed by his flying hair ran like a colt, and leaped at all he saw. But Modred laid his ear beside the doors, and there half heard, the same that afterwards struck for the throne, and striking found his doom. And then the queen made answer, what know I? For dark my mother was in eyes and hair, and dark in hair and eyes am I. And dark was Gorlias, yea, and dark was Uther too, well nigh to blackness. But this king is fair, beyond the race of Britons and of men. Moreover, always in my mind I hear a cry from out the dawning of my life, a mother weeping, and I hear her say, oh, that ye had some brother, pretty one, to guard thee on the rough ways of the world. Hi, JP. Ay, said the king, and hear ye such a cry. But when did Arthur chance upon thee first? O king, she cried, and I will tell thee true. He found me first when yet a little maid. Beaten I had been for a little fault whereof I was not guilty, and out I ran and flung myself down on a bank of heath, and hated this fair world and all therein, and wept, and wished that I were dead. And he, I know not whether of himself he came, or brought by Merlin, who they say can walk unseen at pleasure. He was at my side, and spake sweet words, and comforted my heart, and dried my tears, being a child with me. And many a time he came, and evermore as I grew greater, grew with me. And sad at times he seems, and sad with him was I. Stern too at times, and then I loved him not, but sweet again, and then I loved him well. And now of late I see him less and less, but those first days had golden hours for me, and then I surely thought he would be a king. But let me tell thee now another tale. For Blaise, our Merlin's master, as they say, died but of late, and sent his cry to me to hear him speak before he left his life. Shrunk like a fairy changeling lay the mage, and when I entered told me that himself and Merlin ever served about the king, Uther, before he died. And on the night when Uther in Tintagel passed away, moaning and wailing for an heir, the two left the still king, and passing forth to breathe then from the castle gateway by the chasm, descending through the dismal night, a night in which the bounds of heaven and earth were lost, beheld so high upon the dreary deeps, it seemed in ship, the shape thereof, a dragon winged, and all from stem to stern, bright with shining people on the decks, and gone as soon as seen. And then the two dropped to the cove, and watched the great sea fall, wave after wave, each mightier than the last, till last a ninth one, gathering half the deep and full of voices, slowly rose and plunged, roaring, and all the wave was in a flame. And down the wave and in the flame was borne a naked babe, and rode to Merlin's feet, who and caught the babe and cried, "The king! Here is an heir for Uther." And the fringe of that great breaker, sweeping up the strand, lashed at the wizard as he spake the word. And all at once all round him rose in fire, so that the child and he were clothed in fire. And presently thereafter followed calm, free sky and stars. And this same child, he said, is he who reigns. Nor could I part in peace till this were told. And saying this, the seer, who went through the strait and dreadful pass of death, not ever to be questioned any more, save on the further side. But when I met Merlin and asked him if these things were truth, the shining dragon and the naked child descending in the glory of the seas, he laughed, as is his wont, and answered me in riddling triplets of old time, and said, "Rain, rain, and sun, a rainbow in the sky. A young man will be wiser by and by. An old man's wit may wander ere he die. Rain, rain, and sun, a rainbow on the lay. And truth is this to me, and that to thee. And truth, or clothed or naked, let it be. Rain, sun, and rain, and the free blossom blows. Sun, rain, and sun, and where is he who knows? From the great deep to that great deep he goes." So Merlin riddling angered me, but thou, fear not to give this king thine only child, Guinevere. So great bards of him will sing hereafter, and dark sayings from of old ranging and ringing through the minds of men, and echoed by old folk beside their fires, for comfort after their wage work is done. Speak of the king. And Merlin in our time hath spoken also, not in jest, and sworn, though men may wound him, that he will not die, but pass, again to come, and then or now utterly smite the heathen under foot, till these and all men hail him for their king. She spake, and King Leodogran rejoiced, but musing. Shall I answer yea or nay? Doubted and drowsed, nodded and slept, and saw, dreaming, a slope of land that ever grew, field after field, up to a height, the peak haze hidden, and thereon a phantom king, now looming and now lost, and on the slope the sword rose, the hind fell, the herd was driven, fire glimpsed, and all the land from roof and rick, in drifts of smoke before a rolling wind, streamed to the peak and mingled with the haze, and made it thicker, while the phantom king sent out at times a voice, and here or there stood one who pointed toward the voice. The rest slew on and burnt, crying, "No king of ours, no son of Uther, and no king of ours." Till with a wink his dream was changed. The haze descended, and the solid earth became as nothing, and the king stood out in heaven crowned. And Leodogran awoke, and sent Ulfius and Brastias and Bedivere back to the court of Arthur, answering yes. Then Arthur charged his warrior, whom he loved and honored most, Sir Launcelot, to ride forth and bring the queen, and watched him from the gates. And Launcelot passed away among the flowers, for then was latter April, and returned among the flowers in May with Guinevere, to whom arrived by Dubric the high saint, chief of the church in Britain, and before the stateliest of her altar's shrines, the king that morn was married, while in straightless white the fair beginners of a nobler time, and glorying in their vows and him, his knights stood round him, and rejoicing in his joy. And holy Dubric spread his hands and spake, reign ye, and live in love, and make the world other, and thy queen be one with thee, and all this order of thy table round fulfill the boundless purpose of their king. Then at the marriage feast came in from Rome the slowly fading mistress of the world, great lords who claimed the tribute as yore. But Arthur spake, behold, for these have sworn to fight my wars and worship me as their king. The old the old order changeth, yielding place to new. And we that fight for our fair Father Christ, seeing that ye be grown too weak and old to drive the heathen from your Roman wall, no tribute will we pay. So those great lords drew back in wrath, and Arthur strove with Rome. And Arthur and his knighthood for a space were all one will, and through that strength the king drew in the petty princedoms under him, fought, and in 12 great battles overcame the heathen hordes, and made a realm, and reigned. Let's see. I think I'm going to call it there for today and continue on with the tales of King Arthur as written by Lord Tennyson. They're a little bit difficult for me to read. I can't quite find the rhythm of the way he writes. You know how older writings, like punctuation, is just different than how we were taught to read. And, you know, I'm going to struggle a bit. So rather than continue to struggle and make myself feel bad, I think I'll just end my reading for today. And perhaps it's not likely that I'll read ahead and get prepared, but I like to sometimes think that I will. Probably not gonna happen though. I'm probably lying to myself on that one. Um, so I'm gonna remove my crown, give it to my little one. So what is it? 12:53. Yeah. I still managed to go an hour, and that was wow. That's difficult reading, I gotta say. I appreciate all of you showing up. Hi, Capricorny. Um, Very nice of you to share some of your day with me. I hope that although this was a different pace of reading, it was still enjoyable. So I will see you all around soon, hopefully. I am working on another Ryan Gosling movie right now. I decided to watch The Gray Man, and it's interesting. He's entangled in the web of weird again. How do you like that? He keeps going through hallways of diamond patterns and maze-like patterns. It's crazy. Super weird. And there's all kinds of meaning in the names already. There's another Margaret, which is Pearl again. So I'm interested. It's just not as much fun to watch The Gray Man as it was to watch Barbie. So I might have another one of those coming in a week or so whenever I finish getting through it in 10-second increments. Love y'all. Have a wonderful day. Best wishes, little fishes.